It was 6:03 in the damn morning, and I was elbow deep under the hood of Dale's F-250 trying to figure out why the engine coughed like a smoker in January. Just me, my coffee, the birds, and the good old hum of my air compressor warming up in the garage. I didn't even hear them pull up. Suddenly, there's a knock, knock, knock on my fence gate, not even the porch, the fence. And when I look up, there she is. Karen with an E, flanked by two clipboard-carrying neighbors who looked like they hadn't had a bowel movement since Easter. She's wearing this lemon-yellow jogging suit, sunglasses at dawn, like she's about to go coach a yoga cult. "Good morning, Mr. Miller," she chirps, fake smile and all. "We're here on behalf of the Sycamore Hills Residential Standards Committee." I wipe my hands on a rag and step out of the garage. "Karen," I nod. "It's 6 a.m. She doesn't flinch. Instead, she holds out a sealed envelope like she's serving a court summons. "We regret to inform you that your commercial activity is in violation of HOA Bylaw 14B, unauthorized mechanical operations within residential zones." I stare at her deadpan. "You're aware I'm not in your HOA, right? My land's been outside the subdivision since before your entire hills were even paved." She smiles wider. "That's recently changed. There was a vote to extend jurisdiction to all adjacent properties contributing to community perception. Then, like she's dropping some mic, violation recorded." I blink at her, then at her committee of mimes, and I just say, "You're trespassing." And I go back to my wrench. But in the back of my head, I already knew this wasn't going to be the end of it. See, this land, this house, this old damn garage, it's more than just a spot on the map for me. After I left the Air Force, I didn't exactly have a 5-year plan. I'd been fixing jets half my life, knew logistics better than most lieutenants, but none of that tells you where to go when you're finally free. So I came back here. This place belonged to my dad. He built engines in this garage for 30 years, right up until he had a stroke under a 78 El Camino. When I was 8, he taught me how to rebuild a carburetor on the bench we still got bolted to the wall. I repainted it last year, but you can still see his initials carved into the wood. RM. This land's not much. 1 acre, gravel drive, oak tree in the back with a busted tire swing still hanging, but it's mine. Always has been. Dad made sure it stayed off the HOA grid when the Sycamore Hills folks started buying up land in the early 2000s. He used to say, "Zoning boards are just lawyers in a trench coat. Keep your land free like air in a piston." When he passed, I didn't just inherit a deed, I inherited purpose. So yeah, I keep the garage open. Nothing big, just neighbors, friends, a few referrals. I don't advertise, I don't run a shop. I fix what needs fixing, keep my driveway clean, and shut everything down by sundown. But that didn't matter to Karen, because to her, my place wasn't a home. It was a problem. And problems apparently need regulating. Next morning, I'm walking out to grab the paper. Yeah, I'm that guy who still reads the actual damn paper, and I see it. Someone planted a sign at the edge of my driveway. White plastic stake, red border, bold black letters. Warning, unauthorized commercial activity under HOA review. It's sitting there like some kind of scarlet letter, right between my mailbox and my pecan tree. Thing is, I didn't put it there, and I sure as hell didn't authorize anybody else to touch a single inch of my dirt. I just stood there for a second, barefoot, coffee in hand, staring at it like it might explain itself. Spoiler, it didn't. I yanked it out, carried it over to the garage, and leaned it up next to the trash can. Wasn't gonna throw it away. Not yet. Evidence, you know? 10 minutes later, I called the city zoning office, nice woman named Anita. I asked if they'd logged any complaints against my address. She checked. "Nothing on file," she said. "Everything up to code." So it wasn't the city, it was them. 2 days after that, a city inspector shows up anyway. Middle-aged guy in khakis and a sun visor, clipboard in hand. Said he got an anonymous tip about an unlicensed junkyard operation. Junkyard. I showed him around. The guy was polite, a little embarrassed even. He glanced at my garage, neatly organized, every tool on a pegboard, the floor cleaner than some kitchens, and then he just laughed. "This ain't a junkyard," he said, scribbling something on his form. "Sorry to bother you, Mr. Miller. Some folks just like making noise." Yeah, some folks. He left, but now I knew for sure. Karen wasn't just making threats. She was running a whole damn playbook. And sure, it was small stuff. Signs, rumors, anonymous complaints. But anyone who's dealt with control freaks knows they don't start by kicking down your door. They rattle it. They see if it opens on its own. Well, mine wasn't about to. So a week goes by. Quiet, mostly. I fix a Jeep Cherokee with a blown head gasket, rotate tires on 2 work trucks, help my buddy Rick replace a busted axle in his Ram 1500. Normal stuff. Then, one morning, I go out to pick up parts from the delivery box and notice something weird at the end of the drive. a pile of concrete chunks. Big ones, rebar sticking out like metal ribs, just dumped right in front of my gate like a dead body on the sidewalk. At first, I thought maybe some contractor dropped it by mistake, wrong address or something. But when I walked over, I saw it wasn't random. It was placed deliberately, right across the path, blocking entry unless you drove over the neighbor's grass, which I sure as hell wasn't about to do. There was no note, no truck tire marks, just a pile of heavy crap saying, "You're not welcome here." Took me 2 hours and a rented Bobcat to clear it. I didn't say a word, just logged it, took pictures, time-stamped everything. Then came the flyers. A couple days later, every house in Sycamore Hills, even a few outliers like mine, got a glossy little pamphlet in the mailbox, bright red header, picture of a wrench over a cracked windshield. Unlicensed auto work, protect our neighborhood, know the risks. They didn't name me, didn't have to. My address, 49 Sycamore Lane, was listed as an ongoing concern for community safety and property values. Right underneath that, a phone number for reporting HOA violations and non-compliance. They even added a fake logo, looked like an official city stamp, but I knew it wasn't, just enough to fool the casual eye. That same week, one of my regulars, a guy named Ed who brings me his Ford Explorer every 6 months like clockwork, calls me up sounding sheepish. "Hey Tom, listen, I'm gonna have to cancel next week. My wife's nervous about parking over there. Someone told her y'all got code problems." I said, "Who told her?" He didn't answer right away, just kinda mumbled something about the HOA board and a community meeting. Then he apologized. "Nothing personal, you know I trust you, but she doesn't want any trouble." That stung more than I expected. I don't advertise, I don't cut corners. I'm not out here running a chop shop. I fix cars the same way my dad taught me, clean, safe, by the book. But people believe signs, they believe flyers. Whisper campaigns work when the whispers come with a stamp and a smile. And just when I thought we'd hit peak petty, someone busted the taillight on a client's car, middle of the night. Truck was parked in my driveway, locked up tight. Next morning, back left, taillight was shattered. No note, no apology, just red plastic on the gravel and a message written without words. And that was the line. I didn't go yelling, didn't call the cops, didn't storm any HOA meetings. I just swept up the broken lens, tossed it in the trash, and started the kind of thinking I used to do in the military, long, slow, strategic. Because when people come at you like that, passive-aggressive, smiling to your face while setting fire to your feet, you don't yell, you don't flinch, you gather facts, and then you wait. Because the first rule of engagement? Know your target better than they know themselves. About a week after the busted taillight, I decided to go to one of their HOA meetings. I didn't want to. God knows I had better things to do, literally anything else, but I figured I owed it to myself to try one last time. Civil, director, no drama. Meeting was in the Sycamore Hills clubhouse. Fancy little place with granite counters, lemon water on the table, chairs that looked like they'd been stolen from a hotel conference room. I showed up in jeans and my work shirt, name patch and everything, and still had grease on my knuckles from pulling a starter out of a Civic that morning. Some of them looked up when I walked in. Others didn't. Karen? She was already at the front table, perfect posture, crisp white blouse, that smile like she smelled something off but couldn't say it out loud. They let me speak. 3 minutes, they said. I didn't need more than one. I stepped up to the mic, pulled out a folder, and started laying it out simple. "I'm Thomas Miller. I own the property at 49 Sycamore Lane. It's not part of this HOA, never has been. Legally, zoning confirmed, title confirmed, jurisdiction confirmed." I pulled out my licenses. State issued, active, no violations, self-employed, registered with the county, insurance in place, noise levels within ordinance, waste disposal all documented. I even had photos of the garage, before and after, showing it clean as a hospital floor. I didn't raise my voice, I didn't accuse anyone. I just said, "I'm not asking for favors, I'm just asking you to stop interfering with something you don't control." I looked at Karen when I said it. She let out this little exhale, loud enough for the room to hear, like I was a toddler who'd wandered into an adult conversation. Then she stood up, and with the fakest concern I've ever seen smeared across a human face, she said, "Mr. Miller, while your documentation is very thorough, I think we need to acknowledge the spirit of community guidelines." People nodded, like bobbleheads at a red light. She kept going. "We're not just talking about paperwork. We're talking about values, about harmony, about preserving the tone of Sycamore Hills, and frankly," she paused for dramatic effect, You may not technically fall under our umbrella, but by proximity, your actions affect our environment. Someone in the back clapped, a few others followed, real polite golf clap stuff, applauding the woman who just told me my garage offended the mood of the neighborhood. I didn't say anything back, didn't argue, didn't yell. I just looked at her right in the eye for about 3 seconds too long. Then I packed my folder, nodded once, and walked out. Because that look? That's the same look I gave a superior officer once, right before I filed a full chain of command complaint that got 3 promotions canceled. And believe me, she recognized it. She just didn't know what it meant yet. After that meeting, I gave myself one evening to cool off. Next morning, I sat down at my workbench, not with a wrench, but with my laptop, legal pad, and a cup of black coffee so strong it could strip paint. Because now it was time to stop playing defense. And let me tell you something about working maintenance in the Air Force. You don't just fix planes, you learn to follow paper trails like a bloodhound, contracts, audits, procurement chains, it's all the same. Bureaucracy, that's just another kind of engine. You just gotta know where to stick the wrench. So I started with public records, county tax roll, zoning maps, property history on every lot in Sycamore Hills. Took me about 4 hours and 1 microwaved burrito to find what I was looking for. Karen's house? Owned under her name, but here's the kicker. The second floor was listed as non-primary guest quarters. And cross-checking that with the HOA bylaws, no short-term rentals permitted within Sycamore Hills residential boundaries. Properties must be used as primary single-family residence only. No subdividing or dual-tenant leasing without board approval. Cute. But then I dug a little deeper. There's this small local agency that quietly handles short-term vacation rentals for off-market listings. Think Airbnb, but for people who don't want to list publicly. You gotta know someone. I knew someone. A buddy of mine from base, Jason, used to run security for one of those firms. Still owed me a favor. I gave him the address. An hour later, he sends me a PDF. Karen's second floor, rented 22 times in the last 6 months. 2-night minimum, advertised as luxury guest retreat, minutes from downtown, quiet upscale neighborhood, private entrance, full kitchenette. Photos showed the same upstairs layout I'd seen when I helped her neighbor move a fridge 2 years back. Same drapes, same paint color. It was her house, no question. But wait, it gets better. I checked county tax filings for her address. She hadn't declared a single dime of rental income. That's tax fraud, in case you're wondering. Not a misunderstanding. Not an oopsie. Just straight up fraud. But that still wasn't the crown jewel. The crown jewel landed in my inbox 2 nights later. Courtesy of Bob. Bob's on the HOA board, mid-60s, ex-teacher. Quiet guy, always kept his nose down. But that night he called me out of the blue and just said, "You got a second? I think I've had enough of her crap." Turns out Karen's iron grip wasn't as beloved as she thought. He forwarded me an internal email chain. Most of it was boring HOA stuff, budget updates, parking complaints, usual neighborhood micromanagement. But buried in there, dated 2 weeks before the flyer campaign started, was a gem. An email from Karen to the entire board. Subject line, Miller situation. And in it, she wrote, "I kid you not, that mechanic is a parasite. I'm cleaning up this neighborhood and I don't care what the rules say. I am the rules." Word for word, she actually wrote that. I sat there staring at the screen, just shaking my head. You couldn't script that line better if you tried. It was like a villain monologue from a bad legal drama. Thing is, she'd sent it to 7 people. One of them was Bob. And Bob had receipts. He gave me full permission to use it. Said he'd testify too if it came to that. So now I had proof she was renting out her house illegally. Proof she was dodging taxes. Proof she was knowingly breaking her own HOA rules. And most importantly, proof she wasn't enforcing policy. She was settling a personal vendetta. That's when the last piece clicked. This whole crusade against me? It wasn't about noise, or zoning, or community spirit. It was about power. Karen needed an enemy to stay in charge, someone to point at and say, "See, I'm protecting you." And I was the perfect target, a guy outside the fence line, independent, not afraid of her clipboard militia. Well, she wanted a fight. Now she was going to get one. Once I had everything in place, the rental records, the tax dodging, the HOA rulebook with her own violations highlighted in neon yellow, and that little "I am the rules" masterpiece, it was time to build the payload. I didn't want revenge, I wanted consequences. So I made a list, not a metaphorical list, a literal checklist on a clipboard. Military habit, keeps the mission clean. Step 1. Paperwork. I compiled a full report for the county zoning office and land use department. All legal, all public record. Attached the property use codes, her listing screenshots, and even threw in a side-by-side comparison of the HOA bylaws with the photo of the upstairs rental space she'd posted online. I know bureaucrats. You don't get their attention with outrage. You get it with organized facts in a stapled folder. Step 2. Taxes. Forwarded the income discrepancy to the county assessor's office. Not an accusation, just a concerned citizen tip with clear date-stamped documentation. I didn't even have to use bold font. The screenshots did the screaming for me. Step 3. The HOA board. I sent an anonymous packet to every single board member except Karen. Printed. No return address. No threats. Just the email she wrote, front and center. I am the rules. Highlighted. Underlined. Attached was a full write-up of her own policy violations and a little note that said, "If the president doesn't follow the bylaws, what's the point of having them?" Step 4. Press. My old buddy Nate from base, now a local reporter with a chip on his shoulder and a nose for small-town drama, owed me a favor. I gave him everything. Told him, this isn't just about HOA overreach, it's about how personal power plays hide behind community values. People should see what's happening behind the bake sales and block parties. He loved it. Article scheduled for online release the morning of the next HOA general meeting. Full exposure, front page of the local section. Nothing libelous, nothing exaggerated, just facts. Step 5. Presentation. I prepped a simple folder for the meeting, not thick, no theatrics, just her violations, her own words, and her listing records. I printed it all out on clean paper, clipped it together, and wrote 2 words on the front in Sharpie. For the record. Because I wasn't walking in there to argue, I was walking in to document. That's the thing about people like Karen. They count on fear, on silence, on folks not having the stomach to fight back. But me? I spent 20 years working on machines that only fly if every single part does its damn job exactly right. I don't rattle easy, I don't bluff, and I don't show up to a fight unless I've already lined up the winning shot. So when the next HOA meeting came around, I wasn't going in angry, I was going in ready. HOA general meeting, Thursday night, community center. I showed up 10 minutes early, not because I needed to, but because I knew she hated that. I walked in wearing my work boots, old jeans, and the same navy blue Miller's Garage shirt I always wear. No suit, no clipboard brigade, just a folder tucked under my arm and a cup of gas station coffee in my hand. Karen was already at the front, chatting up board members like a politician before a photo op. All charm and pearls, like she hadn't been caught gutting my reputation for fun. She glanced at me, just a flicker. Smile didn't break, but her eyes did this little calculation, like she was trying to figure out what I was doing there. Room filled up fast, a lot of residents, some renters, couple board folks who I recognized from the email chain. Bob was there too. He gave me a nod, subtle but solid. Karen opened the meeting like she was hosting a brunch. Thank you all for being here. We'll begin tonight's session with some general announcements and then open the floor to community feedback. She never looked at me. Not once. Didn't have to. She knew. 10 minutes in, during open comments, I raised my hand. She ignored it at first, called on the guy next to me, some dude complaining about lawn fertilizer policies. So I waited. No rush. Then Bob cleared his throat and said, "Madam President, I think Mr. Miller has the floor." The room turned toward me like one big whisper. I stood up slow, walked to the front with my folder, and laid it down on the table without saying a word. Just one clean motion. "Evening," I said. "My name's Tom Miller. I live at 49 Sycamore Lane, the property Karen's been treating like her personal HOA punching bag." A few chuckles from the back. I flipped open the folder and pulled out the first sheet. This is a copy of the Sycamore Hills HOA bylaws, page 6, section 2. No short-term rentals permitted on residential property. Sound familiar? I flipped to the next page, held it up. This is a screenshot of Karen's guest suite listing. 22 bookings, full kitchenette, $189 a night. A hush fell across the room so fast you could hear the clock ticking. Next page. Tax filings from the assessor's office, no rental income declared. Then I pulled out the final sheet, her email, blew it up to 200% size on my tablet and held it up like a damn exhibit in court. That mechanic is a parasite. I'm cleaning up this neighborhood and I don't care what the rules say. I am the rules. I didn't even have to add commentary, just stood there holding it while the room digested it. Karen's face, God, I wish I had a photo, froze like a dropped pie. She opened her mouth, then shut it, then opened it again like maybe a lie would show up if she waited long enough. But nothing came. Somebody in the back said, "Is that real?" Bob answered, "Yes, it's from our internal board thread." Another voice, so she's been breaking the same rules she tried to enforce on him? Silence. Then, is that legal? Another, is she even still allowed to be president? Karen finally tried to speak, voice all pinched and tight. That email is out of context. But nobody was listening. She knew it. We all knew it. I just looked at her and said, quiet and even, I didn't come here for an apology. I came here so this doesn't happen to anyone else. Then I packed up the folder, nodded to the room, and walked out. Didn't wait for a vote, didn't need applause. I'm not a hero, but I do believe in torquing a bolt until it holds. And that night, I locked the whole damn structure down. Next morning, I'm tightening the alternator belt on a 96 Tacoma when my phone buzzes. Text from Nate, my reporter buddy. It's live. I wipe the grease off my hands, crack open my phone, and there it is. Headline in bold, right at the top of the Willow County Gazette. HOA president accused of violating own rules, dodging taxes. Short-term rental scheme uncovered by local resident. Underneath, the full story. Everything laid out, clean and factual. The illegal rental activity, the undeclared income, the forged jurisdiction claims, and the sign planting. The quote, I am the rules. Front and center, like a cherry on top of a flaming sundae. Photos, too, her guest listing. My property with the warning sign they snuck in, a scan of the flyer labeling my garage a community hazard. By lunch, the HOA's phone lines were flooded. Bob told me later they had to shut down the inbox. Too many angry emails, too many members asking why their dues were being spent harassing a veteran fixing trucks instead of, patching the broken sidewalk on Maple Drive. The best part? City Hall got wind of it. I guess when your zoning board gets a call from 3 different news outlets before noon, things move a little faster. By Friday, Karen was placed on temporary administrative leave from her HOA position. A full audit of HOA finances was launched. Apparently her community outreach fund had been subsidizing branded lotion samples for her natural skincare side project. You can't make this crap up. The county tax office opened a case. Her short-term rental listing? Taken down by 2 p.m.? And just like that, poof. The woman who spent months trying to paint me as the bad neighbor? Gone quiet. No more flyers, no more fake signs, no more HOA disciplinary letters showing up in my mailbox. Instead, I got cookies. Seriously, 3 different neighbors I'd never spoken to brought me stuff over the weekend. One guy gave me a tin of chocolate chip with a post-it note that said, "Thanks for standing up. We were tired of her too." And the best one? A little white candle in a mason jar from the lady down the street. Label read, "Mechanic's Justice. Smells like victory and motor oil." I laughed for a solid 5 minutes. By Sunday, Karen's house had a discreet "for sale by owner" sign out front. No listing online, just a number and an email. Rumor around town was she was moving to a gated development outside county jurisdiction. No HOA figures. About 2 weeks later, I added a new sign above the garage door. Burned it into the wood myself, just like my dad used to do with his old branding iron. It reads, "Miller's Garage. We fix cars and bullies." That's all I needed to say. Life went back to normal real quick. The phone started ringing again, clients coming back, neighbors asking if I could take a look at this or that. A couple of them brought beer just for the hell of it. One guy tipped me a whole brisket. Even the new HOA board, they voted in Paul, ex-cop with a bad knee and zero tolerance for nonsense, came by to shake my hand. Said they were scrapping all borderline jurisdiction claims and reassessing community engagement strategy. Translation, no more flyer wars. Karen? Last I heard, she sold the house to some tech couple with a baby on the way. Moved out at sunrise, didn't say goodbye to anyone, which was fine by me. I ain't bitter, I'm not mad. Not anymore. See, I didn't fight her for glory. I didn't expose her to make a point. I did it because when someone tries to rewrite the rules and call that justice, somebody has to stand up and say, "Nope, not on my driveway." I still get a few looky-loos, people slowing down to see the garage, or neighbors who heard the story from a friend of a friend. They wave, I nod, we move on. Sometimes a high school kid rides by on his bike and points at the sign. I can hear him laugh as he pedals off. And that's good. Let him laugh. Let him remember. Because maybe next time someone like Karen starts waving a clipboard around and calling it law, somebody'll think twice. Maybe they'll remember the guy in the blue work shirt who didn't yell, didn't flinch, didn't break, just tightened every bolt, and waited. Like I said, I'm not a hero, but I know how to fix things, and sometimes that's enough.